Oh. Like to call the Finance Committee the whole to order and join me in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Campbell,
Here.
Commissioner Zeldin,
Here.
Commissioner Holt,
Here.
Commissioner Marino,
Here.
Commissioner Slaney,
Here.
Commissioner Inger.
Here.
All present, Mr. Vice Chairman.
Thank you. Up next will be approval of the agenda. We'll start with general public comments, limited to agenda items only. We have a couple department presentations. Community development and parks and recreation. And we have no appointments to boards and commissions. We have several business items. We have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrator controller issues, no unfinished business, no new business. We'll have general public comment, again, open to anything that you would like to talk about. Announcements and adjournment. So with that, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved, Marino.
Support Jelazinski.
It's been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. We have an agenda. Next is general public comments on agenda items only. Don't see anyone for general public comment, so we'll keep rolling. Presentations and special reports, Community Development Director, Tim Newport.
Hi there. Good morning, everybody.
Morning. Thank you.
Good morning.
Okay, quick hand up for you to follow along with.
Perfect. Got the right number. So I'm here today to just talk to you a little bit about our services and sort of a fact sheet that I put together, which is kind of our numbers for the year for fiscal year 25. Some of you might ask and don't know, what services do we provide? We provide the building inspection services for the county. We provide land use planning and zoning services to the county. We provide soil erosion sedimentation control, or SESC, services to the county. We do addressing. We support E911 services and do damage assessment. And we also administer and house the Geographic Information System, or the GIS enterprise system for the county. I'm going to walk through each one of these areas. If anybody's got any questions, just feel free to throw them at me and go. So under building inspection services, they're required under state law. State law requires us to do building inspections. If we don't do them, the state of Michigan will, and we don't want that. We want us to do them. Isabella County has been named as the enforcing agency. Community Development Department has been named as the enforcing agency for Isabella County, I should say. State law requires us to charge reasonable fees. Those reasonable fees need to be made with a reasonable relation to the cost of the service. Therefore, this is falls under the Building Inspections Fund, which is a enterprise fund that is fully self-sufficient for the county. We provide building inspection services, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, building throughout the entire county. Plus we have, or throughout the entire county, with the exception of, there is a Joint Construction Code Authority who handles Deerfield, Fremont, and Rollin townships. And then we also do have some service contracts up in Clare County. We've had a service contract with the County of Clare for probably close to 15 years now. where we do plumbing and mechanical inspection services there. We also do it in 3 townships that don't fall under county jurisdiction in Clare, being Grant, Sheridan, and Surrey townships. We are listed, but we haven't done one in a while in the city of Clare. We also have a contract with the city of Mount Pleasant. And we have a contract, our contract with the city of Mount Pleasant is for building only. They have a building person. We do all the trades there already, but we just fill in for their building inspector when he's out. He's on vacation actually this week, and we're filling in for him this week. And we do them for the Saginaw and Chippewa Indian tribe as well. We have a service contract with them to provide trade services, plumbing, mechanical, electrical. Ironically, yesterday I was meeting with another community who's interested in coming and having us provide services to them, which will be a pretty good big asset for us, bringing in additional revenue. When we have these service contracts, we don't typically hire additional employees to do that work. We sort of infill with the employees that we have to provide those services, which brings us additional revenue, which helps our fund. Therefore, we don't have to raise fees quite as frequently or as often to our own citizens and contractors here locally. I think we generated about 69,000 last year in additional revenues from other community contracts. Looking at the numbers for fiscal year 25 under building inspections, we did a total of 2,056 permits. Estimated construction value was $13,846,640. That was from 406 plumbing permits, 583 mechanical permits, 650 electrical permits, 31 commercial and industrial plan reviews, and 386 building permits. That sort of sums up what we do for building inspection services and our numbers for the year. Under land use planning and zoning services, we follow a couple state statutes, one being the Michigan Planning Enabling Act, which is Public Act 33 of 2008. It allows for the creation of our planning commission, and it allows for the creation of our master plan. Master plan is a document that we utilize for future growth of the community. It's required to be by statute to be updated every 5 years. Staff does an annual review of that, so we stay within compliance. We review it on an annual basis, and we report back to the planning commission any changes or modifications we need to make. We do make larger changes to the document, which is a complete update. Last one was in December of 22, and that was after we received all of our census numbers at the time. We made adjustments for the census. The Community Development Department is the primary liaison to the Planning Commission. We also follow the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act, MZEA, Public Act 110 of 2006. That allows for the creation of our zoning ordinance and of our zoning board of appeals. We currently regulate 10 of the 16 townships. 6 of them are independent and on their own. We are the primary liaison to the zoning board of appeals as well. And we are the primary public contact for administration and enforcement of the zoning ordinance in those jurisdictions that we have the zoning ordinance over. We do have also a contract with Co Township that we started about, oh my gosh, probably close to 10 years ago now. We administer their zoning and provide them guidance on their planning commission and zoning board of appeals activities. We did 9 permits for them last year and did 1 variance review of the document for them. Our zoning board of appeals did 6 variances. Planning commission held 2 special use permits, 2 public hearings for a special use permit. We did 16 site plan reviews. Those are in combination of administrative done in our office, and some of those are done by the planning commission as well. We issued 2 home occupations, 6 temporary zoning permits, and did 161 other zoning permits for other activities such as garages, additions to homes or new homes. Moving on to our soil erosion and sedimentation control on the top of the back side of this document. Soil erosion and sedimentation control, or SESC, falls under Part 91 of the Natural Resource Environmental Protection Act. It's mandated again by statute. Counties will enforce this on behalf of the states. Soil erosion sedimentation control is required on any construction project that you disturb more than 1 acre of ground, or you're within 500 feet of a body of water, lake, river, stream, creek, pond, or drain. Requirements for review of stormwater and or sedimentation control require Eagle certification. So 2 of my staff members in the office are certified and through Eagle for to do this work. And we do this on an annual basis. We've been doing it since about 2014. Before that, it was with the drain office. SESC permits for 2025 total was 117. 96 of those were regular permits. 21 of those were exempt permits. People ask, why do you take a permit for something that you're exempting? State law requires us to take permits for exempt. Basically, an exempt permit is something like a pole barn that might be put in 450 feet away from the water, plenty of vegetation. They're only digging holes this big. There's only a pile of dirt next to it like this, and most of that dirt's going back into the hole after they pour the concrete in. So there's just not a lot of soil or not a lot of disturbed vegetation around it. Qualifies still because it's within 500 feet of a body of water, but we can give it a 1-page exemption for a permit. Addressing E91 support and damage assessment. We do all the addressing throughout the county with the exception of the city of Mount Pleasant, Clare, and the village of Lake Isabella. The powers granted for us to address is in the Board of Commissioners. There's a resolution back in the 80s, I believe it was, that authorizes us to issue addresses. Primary purpose of is for E911 services, and that's for the general health, safety, and welfare of our citizens. We now use the GIS to do this work. Prior to about 8-10 years ago, we were doing all of this by hand in our vehicles. We had a calibrated machine that we'd run down the road and we'd get distances and we'd have papers and above the visor and had to calculate all that. We don't anymore. I can sit on my butt in my office and actually do this on the computer, or do this right here. If I had my computer hooked up, I'd have the capability of doing it right here. So the GIS has been nice to be able to do that. We also provide E911 signs. They're not the signs you see in my illustration there. I couldn't find one that we had, and we didn't have one put together that I could take a picture of. But the green signs that you do see out, they come with every new application. So if you come in for an address application, you get a green sign with your app or with your address. We support central dispatch. All of these files go into their CAD system that provide the addresses when a caller calls in. So it's pretty vital for us to make sure that this is correct, so that those guys doing that work on that end are secure and making sure that people get to where they need to get to. First responders have it. It's in police vehicles. It's in the CAD systems. I believe it's in the EMS vehicles as well. And as the director, I am the direct lead for the county on damage assessment. Damage assessment is something that if I had some wood, we'd knock on it now, that we don't hope happens to us. But when it does, like the flood of 2017, a 500-year flood, I spent countless hours over doing damage assessment. I think we put together 3 5-inch binders of data and information. We had to do it within 48 hours so we could get to the governor for a declaration, of which we received, over $1 million in support to the community for. So it's important. It's nice that we have our GIS to be able to help us with that. But that is a responsibility that we hope we never have to do, but we have in the past. Moving on to GIS, the last service we provide is, those of you who don't know, I'm going to read a definition of GIS. GIS is an organized collection of hardware, software, data, and trained personnel designed to efficiently update, store, capture, manipulate, analyze, and display all forms of geographically referenced information. What it does is it allows staff to make better decisions. We can allocate resources more effectively and efficiently and be quicker in response time. GIS is something that changes the world. I mean, it changes how we operate. Every facet of every business is in GIS in some fashion, and it helps us really do a better job than what we could do without. It supports things in our community, such as records management, which is like our parcel data. our land use planning and economic development, which is all our zoning and land use layers, public safety and dispatching, damage assessment, as I discussed earlier, hazard mitigation planning and disaster relief planning, drain planning, engineering and site development, transportation routing, ICTC, the MRF. We have the capability in central dispatch as well. We have had the prosecutors in the past use some of the GIS and have us create some GIS maps for them for criminal prosecution as well. So we've used it pretty thoroughly throughout. Our what people call the GIS, when somebody talks to me, they usually said, I looked at the GIS. The GIS is our fetch portal. Our fetch portal is our online interactive web viewer that has a lot of our GIS data in it in a constructive and organized fashion so that people can use it to learn or gather data and information from it on a geographic level. They can check their taxes there. They can see where police is there. They can check where their polling location is. There's just a slew of data and information there that we have. There is a link to that. If you haven't been there, I suggest you go. If you want a little tutorial, feel free to contact me and we can kind of walk through that. In the GIS itself, I forgot this on the last one too. Addressing, we assigned 75 addresses last year, which is pretty significant. That's a large number of addresses. That means new homes come in 75 throughout the county. Our data and statistics for geographic, for the GIS is we had almost 180,000 views, 179,573 views, and we had 39,773 unique users. So we had, almost 40,000 different people use our GIS throughout the year, and there were page touches of almost 180,000. So it's significantly being used. It's been well over 100,000 since the inception, back in 2007, what it was. It's been very successful for us. So the last thing I'm going to read for you, which is in red on the very bottom, is the vision for the Community Development Department. Our department's vision is the Community Development Department team is committed to providing responsive, effective, quality services to the residents and landowners of Isabella County. So if anybody has any questions.
So the map in the interactive program, is that based on when we do the flyover of the county every so many years? Or how do you get the map?
So it's not based on that. I mean, that is one piece of data. So the map, the orthophotography, the picture, the image is one piece of data that sits in there. You'll see things like parcel lines in there and structures in there. So the photography usually comes after a building permit has been issued and a building has been built, and at some time later we'll get the photography. And we're currently right now doing this. We're updating structures in our office. So now we can take the new photography and lay it down and say, we did a new home there, so now we build the structure to it. So as one piece of it, it's the photography, and yes, it does come on a infrequent basis. We have entered that partnership with State of Michigan, the MySail program. Anytime they fly, they give it to us for free now. So we do obtain it. We have, gosh, I don't even know what we have. We do have a 24 data set, I know that, but I think we have a 24, a 22, a 21, a 20, an 18. So we have quite a bit of a photographer. When we first started out with photography, I think I wrote a grant in 2008. We got our first flight in 2009. Our next one didn't come till 2015. It was 5 or 6 years later. Now we're getting them just about every 2 to 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
So on GIS, people pay for that too, right? Like different businesses and organizations.
For ours,
School or anything like that.
we sell data, but they don't pay to actually view our interactive web viewer. We don't sell a ton of data either. We've sold data to school districts. We've sold data to townships. We've sold data to private entities for certain large scale projects where they needed our LiDAR data, which isn't something that's posted out there, but it's an elevation data system that's got a point. Like the files are enormous. I don't even know that our computers really can comprehend it all. But we sell some of that because we have some people doing some clearings on land, on larger tracts of land, and they want to make sure that drainage and flow is going. So they get the LiDAR from us to know where they want to move their dirt to maintain that on their land.
Did that big warehouse that's being made for Amazon, did they get any?
They did not purchase any data from us.
They
Nope,
probably have it, right?
yes, we do have data for it. We do have data if they want it. I think the only thing we got there was soil erosion and an address, because the permitting activities, go to the city of Clare in that project.
I was just gonna say the interactive map, we don't charge for access to that, and it's not available in all counties, and I do appreciate the fact that it is available.
A lot
to
of
our
companies do
residents.
charge.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. We made I think a distinct decision when we started. It's one of those, if you're gonna start charging for it, you gotta do it up front.
Yeah.
Like, you make the decision to go free, it's hard to go back and start charging people for something they've been getting for free for a long time. And our position on it was always, why are we charging people to go and do something when they're making us more efficient? If they can go on and find this data themselves, and we can empty our filing cabinets into this digital environment and they can go grab it, it frees us up to do more work, more GIS data, more collection of better information that we can. So we figured the savings we'd have on the other end would offset that cost, and that's how we've operated since '07.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And up next is Parks and Recreation Director Alexis Hanson.
Morning.
Morning.
Pass these around. I think there might be an extra. I tried to print one for the finance director too, so if we have an extra, but she might want to see some of these numbers as well. I take it over to her. Thanks, Brian. Okay. So Isabella County has a Parks and Recreation Commission under MCL 261, which is the Act of Michigan legislation from 1965 that allows for counties to form a commission and purchase property for a park and recreation purposes and manage it through a commission. So my department does have its own commission that we meet. There's a couple months a year that we take off, but we meet monthly. And usually they help make decisions that guide business that would then be brought forward to this board. So just a little bit there on how we're structured. We are managing 8 different properties, and some of them are very much just recreation areas that have little opportunity to create revenue, and others are modern campgrounds and active day use areas that have large opportunity to create revenue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through some statistics and numbers on how we operate, and then I also want to make sure to take some time to talk about the services and the impact that we have on the community. So that's how I'm going to run through this. So to start on this first sheet, our gate attendants, when they're working, they keep a census of vehicles that enter the park. So these numbers we have to take with a caveat, because we also have entrances that aren't staffed. Obviously, there's times when we're outside of a shift that vehicles could be coming into a park. And when it's really busy, I know sometimes the gate attendant will say, well, I think that was 10 vehicles that came in, and they try to keep up. So this isn't a gospel number, but it's a good representation of the traffic coming into the parks. So for this 2025 season, we know that for sure a minimum of 41,953 vehicles entered staffed gates into Isabella County Park locations. Those numbers, as you can see from the chart here, have remained consistent over the past 5 years, which tells us that we have steady interest and steady use in these facilities. It hasn't dropped off. There's a pie chart here that shows kind of how the breakdown of, we have 4 gatehouses, one at Meridian Park, at Herrick Park, at Coldwater, and at Deerfield. You can see that Coldwater and Deerfield really get the most use. Herrick does get a lot of use, and then Meridian, that's one of those where we don't have staff there as often, so the number could be lower than what is realistic, but we know that that's some lower traffic levels than what we're seeing at our more modern parks. I also did want to note that it's pretty common in the parks industry to use a vehicle multiplier of 3. So when I say this 41,953, I'm just talking vehicles. If we said on average there was 3 visitors per vehicle, we would be looking at approximately 125,859 visitors coming into Isabella County Parks in one season. So there's definitely a demand for these facilities, and we have what I like to think is a pretty healthy number of users interacting with our system. So park and campground revenue is something I wanted to talk about too, because I think the board members are all aware that we're a millage fund, we're outside of the general fund, and these modern campgrounds and park entrance gates help us to generate some revenue that keeps our operation going and allows us to leverage those millage dollars and the grants that we do get. Something I like to be able to confidently say is that our campgrounds pay for themselves. And so when we ran this year's data, that was abundantly clear. Coldwater is our biggest revenue source as far as the campgrounds go. The total revenue from that park this year was $285,640, with campground fees being 79% of the revenue from that park. Herrick was similarly in the 70s, 72.4% of the revenue at Herrick, which totaled $165,185 came from camping. Deerfield Park is where it kind of flip-flops. Camping only accounts for about 9% of our revenue there. And then our day use and annual vehicle permit sales account for just under 90% of the revenue that's coming in there. So what that tells us is the draw for the most part at Herrick and Coldwater is the campgrounds, and people also obviously like to use the boat launches and beaches. But when it comes to people getting out to do just a day of recreation, Deerfield Park is really, that prime location that our visitors are looking to use. I also listed on here, I'm not going to read through them all, but just for the board members to be aware of our funding partners and some of the places where we're drawing donations and grants from. I'll mention a few. We get a lot of grants from the Michigan Department of Natural Resources. We are members of the Friends of the Pierre Marquette Rail Trail, and they do donate money towards projects for the rail trail. We've gotten tribal 2% distributions. And one of our playground manufacturers, Game Time, has been really good about when we have a project going on, they always find opportunities to help with funding those projects. So there's others listed there if you want to read through. But I wanted to give a representation of all of the partners that we're able to work with and utilize when we're trying to make improvements in the park. Okay, so I wanted to also, as we continue talking about the campgrounds, go over a little bit of our seasonal camping statistics. So we have sort of two different forms of camping. We have nightly camping where you can call our office or you can go on Camus, which is our online reservation system, and you could just book a night, or a week worth of camping for your family vacation. But we also have a seasonal camping program. So those reservations happen, they're actually just wrapping up right now before our online system goes live in February for the season. And those individuals have first right of refusal for their sites, and they're able to reserve and say, yep, I'm going to come back next year. I'm going to be on my same site, and I'm going to be there opening day through closing day of the season. So that actually became so popular in the last decade that we had to cap that number. So at Coldwater Lake, we only allow 35 seasonals out of our 98 sites out there. And then we have 20 of what we call extended stay. So they're not staying for the entire season, but they are staying for longer than we would normally allow. So we have 8 reservations that stay for 46 to 90 nights, and then we have 12 reservations that stay for 30 to 45 nights. Out at Herrick, this seasonal camping isn't as popular, so we haven't had to cap that, but we do have 3 full season reservations at Herrick. And I provided a chart just to show that the majority so it's roughly 62% of the people taking advantage of those seasonal or extended stay camping reservations are county residents. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to mention on that. Okay, I covered it all. So this occupancy and booking data, again, these numbers help us a lot with planning, and we look at these to make sure that we don't need to do more in terms of, marketing our location or changing on what the services that we provide, in order to stay full and have people coming into the park. In the 2025 season, so what we do when we talk about occupancy is we say, okay, here's how many nights times how many sites are available to book, and that gives us our total occupancy availability. And then we can look at percentages based on how many nights were actually booked. So in 2025, the total nights occupied between the Coldwater Lake, Deerfield, and Herrick Recreation Area campgrounds was 16,268 nights occupied within our campgrounds. When I'm talking about booking interactions, what I'm talking about is every time someone interacted with our reservation system. So for us to achieve those 16,268 nights of occupancy, those were executed through 2,684 interactions with our booking system. And why we like to look at that is because, we're paying for this online reservation system, but we also know if someone calls our office to make a reservation, it can take anywhere from a half an hour to, depending on the complicated factors of reservations. Sometimes you can be on the phone with someone for an hour making a reservation. So now we've got 2,684 of those instances happening online instead of being handled over the phone or in person in our office. And it also shows that, yeah, we have a healthy number of interactions. People are coming to our site and they're looking to make reservations within our system. These, the bar graphs to the side here just show fiscal years 25, 24, and 23 for the booking and occupancy. And it kind of illustrates that we've had fairly consistent, steady numbers over the last few years. So we've had this reservation system in place for the last 3 years, and we've seen consistent performance of the campgrounds over the course of time. Again, I didn't want to drone on too much about statistics, but I just wanted to give some numbers about that show the volume of interactions that we're dealing with and the healthy financial situation of our parks. I do want to mention, I'm going to backtrack a little bit on park revenue and just mention, like I said before, the campgrounds are bringing in enough revenue that if I look at the direct expense to run the campgrounds versus the direct revenue that they're making, Herrick and Coldwater are paying for themselves. And then it's when we get to Deerfield Park, Majeski, Meridian, those parks that don't have those modern campgrounds, that's where we're leveraging some funding that comes in from the campgrounds, grants, millage dollars, other sources to keep those public trail systems and public natural areas running. So it's good for us to look at those things and set goals and look at our performance that way. So we're trying to do that every year. I also wanted to, like I said, talk about community impact and ways that we're engaging with the community. I think when people think of Parks and Rec, it's easy to think of fishing, boating, hiking, camping, but there's a lot more that's going on. And so I wanted to give a little, I'm not going to read through this entire list. It's pretty extensive. But some of the things that are happening in the parks, universities like Michigan State University, just last summer alone, they did a soil research project and a mosquito study at Deerfield Nature Park. We also had Alma College out at Meridian Park doing a bluebird nesting box study. And then Central Michigan University does a Leave No Trace class and some wilderness first responder training that they actually do out in Deerfield Park. And then they also help us by doing a resource use study on the disc golf course. So there's active research going on in these parks through universities, and there's active learning where students are coming out and having class experiences out in the parks. We also have an event through an organization, a local organization called Limitless Outdoors. They come out to Herrick, and last year I think the event was they had an accessible canoe where some rec therapy students from CMU created an accessible canoeing experience, and this organization was able to bring individuals with different mobility capabilities out and experience canoeing. And those are things where we are happy to work with those partners to get them access to a location where they can have those experiences. We also know that like ROTC from CMU and our local military recruiting organization, they'll come out and do training experiences in the parks. Shepherd Athletics, they do their annual Turkey Trot 5K as a fundraiser out in Deerfield Park. And so we try to partner with them to help their fundraiser be successful. Sacred Heart Cross Country, they bring their team out to do training and practice. So we're helping with some of the local athletic programs have places to fundraise and places to practice. We started doing a few years ago the free fishing weekend, right? There's no really good state land around here. So when the state of Michigan is offering their free entrance and their free fishing and their free weekend, we've started matching that so that folks can come out and experience that without having to travel out of the area for a state park. And there's a lot of different things on there. Again, it's an extensive list, but there's a lot of ways where we're actively working with community partners to make these spaces available and to have an impact on the overall community. Again, I've listed some collaborations just to show how we're trying to work with partners to make these spaces available in positive ways that sort of reach out into different communities. And then I want this community enhancement list. Again, you think of hiking, you think of camping, you think of fishing. Other things that are happening are we have a lot of weddings that happen. People rent the covered bridge and they'll do weddings out at Deerfield Park. The last 2 summers, we've had Memorial of Life ceremonies or services where people have rented a pavilion and they've had a Memorial of Life for their loved one. Birthday parties, family reunions, graduation open houses, things like that are happening out in the pavilions. We do have the orienteering course at Deerfield, and we've actually had groups come from places like Cadillac or outside of Isabella County to come use that orienteering course for land navigation practice with a class or with a recreational group. We have groups like Chippewa Nature Center, even though they have their own nature facility, they're doing field trips where they're coming over to Deerfield Park to get into a different habitat and a different atmosphere. And then we have year-round recreation, whether it be cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, our sledding hill. We have the beaches. So there's something going on year-round, even though the campgrounds are closed in the winter. Deerfield Park, Meridian Park, those places are open for recreation. And we also have several locations that are used for ice fishing or just fishing in general throughout the year. So I would encourage you to read through these lists or just scan through them at some point, because there might be something happening in the parks that you weren't aware of before. And then on the back, I just gave a list of our facilities. Like I said, we have 8 facilities, including Deerfield Nature Park, Coldwater Lake Family Park, Herrick Recreation Area, Meridian Park, Majeski Landing, Gilmore Park, Pierre Marquette Rail Trail, and the Lawrence McDonald Wildlife Sanctuary. And so we truly do have something for everything. There's kind of a hierarchy of completely undeveloped areas that we want to protect and keep undeveloped for that nature experience, all the way up to Coldwater Lake, which is our most developed modern campground, and that's a certain atmosphere for a certain type of user. It's great from a business standpoint because we can hit a lot of markets because we have something to offer for different kinds of campers and different kind of recreators. And it's great for our community members because they can find just about any form of outdoor recreation right here in our facilities. So I know that was a ton of information. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if anyone would like to ever take a visit or a tour to any or all of the facilities, please reach out because I love doing that. And I would be happy to show you around as a group or as an individual whenever you might be interested.
Question, what does that mean, that part of the, what does firewood mean?
Yeah, so we collect dead wood, down wood from throughout the parks. And we process it, split it, stack it, and bundle it, and then we sell $5 bundles. So that's another revenue source for us where we're having to clean up the down wood anyways. And then we're able to turn around and sell it at the campgrounds. And there's enough of a demand for it that we actually budget a tiny little bit each year. Sometimes we'll actually buy firewood to sell because even what we've processed ourselves will run out. So and then our campers don't have to leave the park and go hunting around the community for firewood. They can get it right from us. So that's what firewood is. And it is a source of revenue for us at the campgrounds.
That's great.
Other questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
And that will take us to committee reports, Finance Committee, Committee of the Whole, and I think we'll do what we did last time. We'll just go around the table. I think we'll start with Commissioner Jablonski. Will you do that item 1
Okay.
for us?
Consider ratifying and placing on file the December 12th, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $241,643.84. The December 19, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $536,444.52. The December 26, 2025 invoice list in the amount of $158,245.70. the January 2nd, 2026 invoice list in the amount of $823,492.13. The January 9th, 2026 invoice list in the amount of $779,373.67. And the adjustment list dated December 11th, 2025. We shouldn't have time off. We got all these lists, $20 all at one time.
Wanna walk
And then if
through
you
this?
I will,
Okay.
I will go through the December 12th list. These lists are sent out to the Board of Commissioners prior to this meeting for them to review and ask any questions of staff regarding any items on this. It's also looked over here, then it's also approved at next week's meeting. This first page has all the invoices over $5,000 on that. And on the December 12th, 2025 list, which totals $241,642.84. The general fund portion is $123,884.33. Some of the larger items on this one would be Preston Community Services for the monthly equalization contract for $19,375. We have $5,000 to the city of Mount Pleasant for the annual airport partners dues. And then we got $6,304.41 for legal services. And then various items related to recycling, parks, and the sheriff's department.
Okay, that big one there, WellPath LLC
That is
is,
the monthly, I'm sorry.
that's the monthly cost of medical services to the inmates.
And that was $49,840.54.
I have something to say about that. For the past few years, there's been a application to get a waiver, so we get more support for medications and all that stuff. And it did pass. It was sent to Washington DC, came back. It's now in a pilot program, but it's only at few jails, but eventually that will be taken care of. And also there's, I guess it's like, also when people are close to getting released, they will be getting back their Medicaid or something like that. So in the future, and we all know the government takes a long time to do things, that we look forward to that, really.
And I
That would
do,
really be a big relief, right?
and I do know the sheriff is looking at some different options for this in order to save the county some money on healthcare services. Not ready for the board yet, but he's been working on it for a number of months now.
Great, thank you.
Okay, the next one is
Wait a
the.
second.
I'm
I
sorry.
have a question.
Oh.
Actually, it's for Clerk Lutz. We have a lot of the jury fees. Does that all come in one time or is that because of the year end for the juries?
No, that comes pretty much monthly. It depends on
This is just a big
how many trials that we have.
trial dates going on.
How many jurors that the judge wants. for
I
each
just noticed there was a
person.
lot of extra ones this time, it seems like, but.
That's all in judge's hands.
Okay, I thought that was the answer, but I just wanted to check, because it seemed like there was a lot of this time. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next up is the December 19th, 2025 invoice list, total of $536,444.52. The general fund portion of this is $282,027.21. Some of the larger ones on this is $17,604 to MRP Properties for the rent at the 510 and 614 West Pickard sites. $77,090.50 for a portion of the liability and property insurance to Michigan Municipal Risk Management. We also have $67,500 coming out of the Parks Fund for the Herrick Recreation Area Project. And then we got some various treasurer sales and refunds on taxable values. Questions? Okay, next is the December 26th, 2025 invoice list, total of $158,245.70. General fund portion is $24,198.16. We have $22,682.50 for the monthly dental and vision insurance. We have the HATS bi-weekly animal control contract. And then we have two in here for the Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works for higher education career readiness software and for security officer services. And then a couple items related to the public defender as well as more treasurer items. Okay, next is the January 2nd, 2026 now. $823,492.13. General fund portion out of all that is $12,679.34. So we have multiple Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works for their January rent at their various properties that they have at the other counties. We also have one from the MERV for manpower of $5,394.74 for contracted labor to manpower. And then we have McBride Quality Care for day treatment monthly contract, and the rest are tax disbursements from the treasurer's office with a big one of $561,164 to the Gratiot Isabella Intermediate Schools. Okay. Next is the January 9th, 2026 invoice list. That was the second page on this one. $779,393.67. General fund portion is $178,722.79. A lot of Great Lakes Bay Michigan Works on this one. We do have a few from administration, Central Dispatch, and Mr. Deeds Sheriff. Again, you'll see WellPath again is on there for the monthly medical services contract. We also have HATS. We have storage rental for the various rental that we have across the for storage at $6,120. That was all paid up front for a little discount, so we paid it all up front for the whole year on a couple of the sites that we have with storage lockers. And then we got the University of Michigan monthly medical examiner fees for December of $16,335.55.
So just a question of the Great Lakes Bay invoices. Do they input those in under like BSNA?
They input
to make-
themselves under the BSNA, and then we get the copies, and then we double check it to make sure that they are invoiced and coded correctly.
They follow all county procedures because they're part of the county.
So it makes it easier than,
Yep.
they don't send a paper copy over or anything. They use the same
email
software,
their-
so.
They email it all, so they're just like another department, they do all the inputting, they have full BSNA access to their individual department, so it's a county department.
And then finance is able to keep up with the additional workload. It seems like a lot of payments going out, but you're able to keep up with the staff you have?
Yep, the team is doing great, but some
Okay.
weeks obviously are a little tougher than others. They're doing great.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, last is the December 11th, 2025 adjustments list. Here you'll have the items on here that are put on because there was calculation errors on an invoice, or invoices were paid to avoid late fees or to get an early discount. On this sheet, we have two errors that were made and corrected, but the rest of them are to Gordon Food Service, Coopers Energy, and JP Morgan Chase to avoid late fees or to get an early payment discount.
Any questions on any of those? We'll move all that to next week's board meeting. And item 2, Commissioner Sweeney, would you have that for us, please?
Consider approving the recommended application and escrow fees for special use permit and site plan review of an off-site battery storage systems, and authorize the board chairperson.
Director Newport.
Good morning again. So as you might recall, 6-8 months ago, I brought to you language addition to the ordinance that was approved for the battery energy storage facilities. We didn't have that currently in the ordinance. We've now got the language in the ordinance. I did lack coming back and recommending a fee structure for that so that we can properly charge those. Fortunately, we haven't had any come in front of us at this point, so we want to just kind of get ahead of it and get those established. So this is really just a process of establishing the fee structure for the battery energy storage systems, specifically the offsite. You'll see a couple definitions there in my staff report for battery energy storage systems and battery energy storage systems offsite. Basically, the offsite is when it's going to the grid, when it's big power going to the grid. So we're recommending a fee structure very similar to the other renewable energy fee structures we have, one for wind farms and the other for solar. It's a three-part fee structure. The first part under A being that of the cost for the actual special use permit and site plan application. That is a $5,000 fee for the first 50 megawatts of power. And an additional $500 per 5 megawatts of power above that. So anything above the 50 megawatts is going to pay the additional 500 per 5 megawatts of power. Section B of the fee structure is the escrow. The escrow is something that's calculated by us when we receive a project. And it's based on our need for additional study potential, additional legal counsel, additional review by a third party. So any of those engineering fees and those things that we would normally have to have, they establish and provide us an escrow up front. When a project is initiated, I will be bringing to you a resolution establishing what that is for that application, and we'll move it forward. We did that with the other two, both turbines and solar farms. The third piece of this is for ordinance violation review and compliance. Again, it's another escrow. It's an established escrow that'll stay as long as the project stays, so the life of the project. And it's for us to utilize in the event that we have compliance measures that we can't get voluntary compliance on. If we have to do a study for some reason after the fact, or if we need to have some enforcement, some legal review and legal counsel on something, we have the money to do so. Both of the escrows are built in a way that they're replenishable, and we can seek additional dollars. The first one where we're doing engineering fees and such, we make a request to them, they provide us. We didn't have that in the wind and the solar, we actually did. We asked for additional monies. They turned the money over just pretty much, I won't say like that, but it was wired over within a week or two. And we had the dollars to keep on moving. The escrow on the violation enforcement side is if we use any of it at any time, we use $1,000, we're going back and telling them we need $1,000 to keep it at that cap that we established at the beginning of the project. So both or all three of these fees are the same, identical to the others, just built a little bit differently based on the type of project, solar, wind, and battery energy storage. So just looking for your approval on that next week's meeting. If anybody has any questions.
Just real quick, how is these fees comparable to the rest of the state? Are they in line or?
Oh, well, it's really hard to track down because there's not a whole lot of battery energy storage activities going around, right?
Okay.
What I will say is that these fees have been in a position that haven't deterred anybody from looking at, our community. We haven't established these, but the solar and the wind, wind is $30,000 for an application fee. Solar is $5,000 for the first 160 acres. And then 5,000 per additional 40 thereafter, I think it is. So they've attracted people. We can't, it's hard for us to compare to others. It's just not a lot out there. Is the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My question is more, can you relate to me the acreage that say 50 megawatts or a standard battery storage site would take?
Yeah, they're sort of all over the place right now. There is some communication about approximately 30 acres for 200 megawatts of power. That's a current communication that's come to our office. So I don't know if that's the standard, so whatever that math would be, 70 megawatts per, 10 acres or whatever, but the one that's been communicated to me is around a 200 acre project or 200 megawatt project with utilizing 30 acres of land. So the footprint in something like battery energy storage for the amount of megawatts is much reduced. You got a wind turbine standing out there putting off about 2.3 megawatts power, standing on a footprint that's probably 100 by 100. You got solar sitting out there pushing, a full 40 is probably pushing maybe somewhere around 60 megawatts of power. And then this on a 30 acre pushing the 200 megawatts of power. Yeah, the costs are a little higher for these. There's a lot more technology to these. The expense for putting it in is greater. But the footprint for the impact is much, much smaller.
Yeah, Steve, in that book that I just gave you, it has those things. And I toured one that was 100 megawatts in the south part of Michigan. And that only that only needs to have 7 acres. But there's so many, they contact fire department, all kinds of coordination with the local area. There's grants that you get that given out by Eagle and all kinds of stuff.
So that book that I saw you with earlier is one of the books or one of the resources that we utilized in putting together our language. It was state law that changed here recently that had some mandates in it. It was that book out of University of Michigan, that study there, as well as others that have had these in the industry, others planners who've worked through these processes. So we used a lot of that book through the process of establishing our language.
I have another question. Well, I know that some of the smaller, it all depends on where your substations are, right? And so the city has some, Union Township has some. So some can be not going into the grid, but can go into whatever the applicator wants to do. Like if the city wanted to do one.
Yes, so
Mount Pleasant.
yes, so basically regulatory agency at the state dictates how much megawatts a substation or area is going to put out and produce. And so that 200 megawatts that I'm talking about maxes out the capacity of the substation that was approved for the previous solar and wind. They got I don't remember what the number was, 450 total or 485 total or something like that, granted to them through the state agency. They use so much for solar, they use so much for wind, and now they're going to capture, so much of that in battery storage itself, and they'll max it out. So some of that they can do that, but it's dependent on a regulatory agency at the state of Michigan to give the city or Union Township the ability to expand the utilization at that specific substation.
Okay. Because, well, I know that the city used to have a utility themselves. It was with water or something like that, whatever you call it. But they used to have their own utilities, which was really good because when they charged the customers, their foremost thing was make as much profit as you can. So.
Okay, yep. I know there is a battery energy storage facility. I'm currently going down in, I believe it's been approved down in Pine River Township, which is the township adjacent just south of Co Township. So it's being established down there at a substation where the Co and Pine River project wind went to, and sort of is moving into that substation. They just were approved. I'm not sure on the size of that. I don't recall what that size was, but that was just recently approved.
Yeah, is there any different zoning regulations for the storage different from the solar, or is that?
Oh, yeah, there is. I
What
don't
is?
I don't have it off the top of my head, Frank.
Okay,
It's in the ordinance. Storage, I believe storage was limited to our agricultural districts, which is where we're putting our substations and our wind and solar, as well as allowed in our industrial or commercial, because sometimes communities will put their substations into an industrial or commercial zoning classification. So then you'd want to be able to expand and put the battery energy storage near or close to your substation there. I don't think we have any of those needs in the county necessarily. Most of it is going to be from ag, but don't quote me for sure on that district.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my
It's
head.
still all kind of new yet, but.
Yeah,
Just
and we just approved that language 6 months ago and I
Okay.
clearly have short-term memory because I can't remember.
You don't have to tell me that. Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other questions? All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll move that item to next week's board meeting, and item 3, Commissioner Weber, will you do that for us, please?
Yep, consider approving the partial termination request for Timothy and Louise Mogg, PA 116, and instruct the Isabella County Clerk to forward the approved resolution to the MDA Farmland and Open Space Program.
You're our farmland expert, you want to speak to that?
Okay, yeah, usually I said it has, with under 2 acres, they can be, usually it has to do with the boundaries and everything. The curious thing is that the years ago, of course, with GIS, it's gotten a little better, but they had said that if some of the fence rows were actually 50 years, they were actually accepting some of those boundaries in there, but, yeah, basically it's usually just to straighten something up, or you'll be getting one up here where it has to do with the septic. Needed a little extra area on that, so usually if it's under 2 acres, if it's like a larger parcel, then there's some tax advantage or repayment required on advantages you receive, and that's a whole other process, but I think these clerk boxes might be a little bit, but these smaller parcels are usually just
In this case,
clear something, straighten it up.
they're selling, there's currently a house and a garage on there. And some of this went into the boundary of what they're selling. So this is why they have to release it on this certain one.
Yeah, we're working on one where it has a septic tank that was actually going into, the lawn was actually into the farmer's property. It's been that way for years, so it was just a minor to allow them to put a new septic drain in. So just usually some minor stuff. If it's a total release, there's some penalties and some tax repayments to do that. If you're, because a lot of these contracts might be for 10 to 90 years, so.
Any questions? All right, we'll move that to next week's meeting, and item 4, you want to take that one for us, Mr. Chairman?
Sure, consider approving the budget amendment 2026-08 EOC for temporary premium pay for direct care workers for the period of October 1st, 2025 to December 31st, 2025, and authorize board chairperson to sign the same. So.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
I asked Jen if she wanted to take this one. She said she just punted it to me, so. This is pretty standard.
Yeah,
We just brought you one here not too long ago too, to go back into fourth quarter of fiscal year 25. So these typically come out at kind of after the fact for us. So they let us know, what the current award is. So then therefore we come to the board and we say, hey, we want your permission to increase that grant revenue and then also increase the premium pay to the direct care workers. And that applies to both the full-time ones and the part-time ones, so.
Yep. No questions? Very good. We'll move that to next week's meeting. And item 5 is consider approving budget amendment 2026-09 BOC to adjust budget to reflect insurance opt-outs for the 2026 calendar year and authorize a board chairperson to sign the same.
So this one, open enrollment takes effect on January 1st of the calendar year every year. Obviously, you guys know we budget on a fiscal year, so we don't always know, when we prepare our fiscal year budgets, we don't always know how many in lieu we're gonna have where people opt out. So now we have current data, we know for sure what it is, so we've adjusted the budget. I do want to clarify that, in lieu payments are $5,200 a year. It's $200 per pay. But just keep in mind, we're adjusting this based on a calendar year, not our fiscal year. So that's why you're seeing $3,900, getting adjusted instead of 5,200. We've already, spent,
Yeah.
that first quarter's worth. So, so these are the ones hitting the general fund departments, and, we had a few in parks there, so.
Have we seen, an increase in opt-outs?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely did. We ended up with, two, three, we had six, new ones this year. I think it. I'm sorry, I didn't bring my other sheet with me that told me the grand total, that opted out, but yes, there were definitely more this year.
With 6 additional
Yeah.
this year.
Yeah, 6 additional
Uh-huh.
new ones, and that's a significant savings to the county.
It is.
So I think that when the county made the decision to go to that $200 per pay, I do believe that we're getting some results of that and that it is helping.
Mhm.
Especially if those folks have, the ability to be insured through their spouse
Yeah.
or a parent, if they're, someone that's younger than 26, and it's definitely beneficial to us. It helps save us money. And it also, the less people on the plan, the more we have a better chance at keeping our rates down for usage and whatnot, so.
Yes.
Do you think this would be an incentive for people that want to work here?
It definitely could be. I know there's places that don't offer anything, to opt out, so, it definitely could. Now, whether that 5,200 a year is the determining factor to get them to come here,
Another thing, right?
yeah, I think it would have to be a combination of things, but yeah, that's definitely one thing in the positive for us.
That's what policy change, I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we'll move that item to next week's board meeting. That brings us to item 6, and Commissioner Campbell, will you present that?
Consider approving the enhanced service proposal from Progressive Companies for the Isabella County Administration Building renovations and authorize the board chairperson to sign the same pending legal approval.
Okay, and you want to walk us through that?
Yes, won't go over the full staff report on here, but just some of the highlights is that on November 4th, a motion was passed by the Board of Commissioners that authorized the administrative controller to prepare and send out an RFP for design bid build professional services. The RFP was issued on November 24th, 2025, with a mandatory site visit and pre-proposal meeting on December 8th of 25. RFPs were then due by 2 p.m. Monday on the 22nd. Isabella County received 13 qualified proposals that were reviewed thoroughly by staff and the Administration Building Advisory Committee. Out of the 13 qualified proposals reviewed, 2 were destined for follow-up Zoom meetings with myself and 2 others to conduct more in-depth on some questions we had regarding what we thought were the final 2 proposals. So the Administration Advisory Group met and went over the proposal, went over the one that we considered was the secondary proposal. Not a bad one by any means. But so we went over those multiple ones. And the Building Advisory Group is recommending that the enhanced services proposal from Progressive Companies be accepted in the amount of $398,000. Even though the proposal was the second lowest in terms of price, the advisory group felt that Progressive Companies' proposal provided the county was the most responsive to the needs and provided the most value. As we had discussions with them and we were asking for additional services, if we needed to consult for furniture, FF&E, and how that would size in with some of the offices and where we would run electrical and stuff to it. They already have that on staff and that was in charge. There were various items that Progressive had come out and said, and we got it in writing, and I believe I put that as the secondary part of the
Three
proposal.
pages, yeah.
The last 3 pages are the notes from that. And so we felt that this gave us the one that we think was going to be of high quality, was going to be the most upfront in its pricing, and not have additional services added on in the future. I'm not saying that there won't be with this, but we think we have a pretty inclusive package with Progressive. And the wording I have on this for enhanced services is because in their pricing structure, they had a base service, they had enhanced, and they had a comprehensive. And when we discussed it, we determined that the enhanced would be more than sufficient for what we needed, that we did not need the comprehensive. But if we went with the base, that we felt that it may require some additional add-on services in the future.
Yes.
So this is a design bid, build. This company would take responsibility for all those phases, including the building phase, or will we need to get a general contractor?
They will still get a general contractor, but they'll oversee the general contractor, oversee like the payments and stuff like that to ensure that the work is being done. We would have bi-weekly meetings set up with this for that purpose. And so that was already built into the bid. So we would still, once they get this done, once they give us the final plans in which we could submit for review quality prints, we then can go out and they will help us prepare a bid for a general contractor. And then when you get the general contractor in, that is the big ticket item right there. Then we can say to the citizens, this is what our total cost is going to be with the general contractor and with these services right here. That way we're not looking at estimated costs anymore. We are looking what we have as far as an actual bid cost. I think it's a great way to ensure transparency. So when that 45-day bond window is open, that they will be able to see the plans and see how it's going to be laid out, because it's not just going to be an engineered, I don't want to say generic, but it's not going to be the actual true design plans. This will be it.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the work group on this, the amount of hours and time and paperwork, and ran down all the different options, and some of them, the ones that did make sense, but we ran them down anyways, and tried to come up with the best option that we had. Just like every other committee, I think unanimously decided that this was the best option, and you know, it's not any different from the parks committees or the planning commission, that the time and the effort they put in, that the recommendation is pretty solid, so.
Out of the 13 proposals, that totaled over 600 pages of reading stuff. So, I mean, a lot of great proposals. And I think Progressive gives the best value.
Kind of a blessing to get that many proposals.
Yeah.
When we showed up for the walkthrough, and I thought, okay, I'm only gonna bring like, I was hoping for 5. But I'm gonna bring 12 just in case, and then 28 showed up. I was just like, oh boy, you know, it was a very pleasant surprise and stuff. So hopefully this means when we go out for general contractor bids, that we will get that a pretty sizable amount too for that bid as well. I'm kind of, was very nice to see.
And it's not unusual where you'll get, like you said, 28, but a lot of them are gonna work together and do a proposal together. And you'll probably get that with the general contractor, where they'll work with some other groups, so some different contractors. So there might be 3 or 4 of them that went together to do a proposal, so. And, you know, that's kind of normal how it works, so.
Okay. Questions? Comments? Okay, thank you. And we will move this item to next week's board meeting. And that will bring us down to general public comments. Anyone for general public comment? Seeing no one for general public comments, announcements. The announcements, yes, sir.
I'd like to report the good news that the judge, the latest judge on the effort by the DHS to privatize mental health organizations was
deemed unlawful, so that's not gonna happen.
And I would like just take a quick moment to congratulate again Charity Sweet for getting the position of MRF director. She's got a lot of work ahead of her and she is more than ready for it. And I'm very optimistic what she's going to do in the future. So thank you for taking on that role.
Thank you.
Any other announcements? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved, John Zinski.